So let's have a look at how you can tell if your baby's getting enough milk. Lots of people really worry about this because they can't see the volume of milk going in. So how do they know the baby's getting enough milk? Well, first things first, have a think about all of the things that you ate or drank in the last 24 hours. Perhaps you may have been having lots of cups of tea. Maybe you had a really big breakfast and you were still hungry later on in the morning and you had a snack. Perhaps you had lunch and dinner, maybe a couple of biscuits. And so over the day you've had a few bits here and there and then lots of drinks of water at the same time. Perhaps you didn't have a very hungry day yesterday, and so you didn't actually have as much as you did maybe today or the day before. But the point is, we don't follow a set schedule of amounts at every single time we either eat or drink something. It wouldn't be very enjoyable to have a set amount of water or a set amount of food and then have to wait a set amount of time on the clock before we could have anything else. Babies are exactly the same. So as we've already said, you can't overfeed your baby from your breast. So therefore, rather than worrying about the amount going in and set amounts at set times, utilise the cues from your baby that we looked at in responsive breastfeeding and look at all the other signs that your baby is showing you that they are getting enough for them so that you don't need to worry about the actual amount going into your baby. So the first thing that you can do to know if enough milk is going in is it's going to be coming out. So nappies. Nappies are your best friend when it comes to working out how much milk your baby's getting. And here you can see on the chart that each day for the first week of life can look slightly different in what to expect. So let's have a look at day 1. On day 1, we expect at least 1 poo. Now, if you get more than this, that's absolutely fine. But we want to see at least 1, and it's usually very black, dark, and sticky. It looks like tar. We call this poo meconium. Here you can see 1 droplet. This demonstrates 1 wet nappy. So when we say a wet nappy, that means that your baby has passed urine or had a wee. So on day 1, we would expect at least 1 wet nappy and at least 1 dirty nappy, or a poo. You will hopefully see that your baby has more than 3 or 4 feeds in the first 24 hours of life. As we move on to day 2, we will expect your baby's poo to start going up to at least 2 per day every single day for the first 6 weeks of life. If you see at least 2 poos every single day within a 24-hour period, this is a really good sign that your baby is getting enough milk. During the first week of life, it's going to change colour as well. So here in the next photo, you can see on day 1 to 2, we start with that black, sticky tar-like poo, and it transitions through from a dark green to a light green, and then on to a yellow runny stool or poo around about day 5. If you're seeing this in your baby's nappies during this time, this is a really good sign that your baby's getting plenty of milk. And remember, you can't have too many poos, but we would always like to see at least 2 in 24 hours to know that they're getting enough milk. So a quick way to remember that, I always think if you're going to be telling somebody in a very polite way that you're going for a poo without saying, I'm going for a poo, you might give it a number. And what number might that be? You're going to say number 2. So that is how many poos you want to see from your baby in every 24 hours in the first 6 weeks of life. And this is a really good sign that your baby's getting plenty of milk. So moving on to wet nappies, you can see on the chart that it goes up by 1 every single day for the first week. So on day 1, we want to see at least 1. On day 2, we want to see at least 2. On day 3, you guessed it, we want to see at least 3. And it goes like that for the first 6 days. By 6 days, you're going to probably see at least 6 to 8 wet nappies in every 24-hour period. and that's a really good sign that your baby is getting plenty of milk. If at any point you're getting less than what you expect, then let somebody know from your midwifery or health visiting team so that they can organise a full feeding assessment. After day 2, you're going to expect at least 8 to 12 feeds in 24 hours. And that's really quite normal. That's your baby's food and drinks, cups of tea and snacks as well. Now, you don't need to remember all of this information when you have your baby, because if you're having your baby with us at Southampton, or even if you're having a home birth, we will provide you with a breastfeeding diary. The breastfeeding diary is an A4 document that you will have to keep, and that is your journal. You can document all of your feeds every single day so that you can see how feeding is going. You can monitor the wet and dirty nappies, and it will give you little hints and tips every single day as to what you should be expecting on that day and who you can call if anything deviates from what you were expecting. So make sure you get your breastfeeding diary as soon as your baby is born, and then you can fill that out as you go on the first week to 10 days of your breastfeeding journey. So there are some other signs that you can tell that breastfeeding is going well and that your baby is getting all the milk that they need by their behaviour. So you should see that your baby is having at least 8 or more feeds in 24 hours after the first couple of days of life. They may feed for between 5 and 45 minutes at each feed, and they should be generally calm and relaxed whilst they're feeding, and then content after most feeds. You may find once your baby is about 3 or 4 days old onwards that you should be able to hear your baby swallowing frequently during the feed. You may notice that your baby also has a normal skin colour. These are all good signs of your baby telling you that they're getting enough milk for them. Signs that you might want to speak to your midwife or health visitor are if your baby is sleepy and has had less than 6 feeds in 24 hours, or if they're consistently feeding for 5 minutes or less at each feed, or perhaps they're feeding longer than 45 minutes at each feed. If they're always falling asleep on the breast, or they never finish the feed themselves, or if your baby appears jaundiced. Now, this is where the skin has a yellow discoloration, and most jaundice in babies is not harmful. However, it's important to check your baby for any signs of yellow colouring, particularly during the first week of life. That yellow colour will usually appear around the face and forehead first, and then spread to the body, arms and legs. A good time to check is when you are changing a nappy or clothes. From time to time, press your baby's skin gently to see if you can see a yellow tinge developing. Always check the whites of your baby's eyes when they are open and the inside of his or her mouth when they open it to see the sides, the gums or the roof of the mouth and to see if it looks yellow. If you're worried about the colour of your baby's skin, or perhaps your baby is excessively sleepy, this would be an indication to let your midwife or health visitor know. The other thing to look out for is if your baby is coming on and off the breast frequently during the feed, or if they're refusing to breastfeed. If you cannot tell if your baby is swallowing any milk once your baby is over 3 or 4 days old, or if you think that you need to give your baby any additional milk, such as formula milk or your expressed milk, or if you think your baby needs a dummy, then let your midwife or health visitor know to see if they can support you further with your breastfeeding. So another sign that breastfeeding is going well is that your breasts and nipples should be comfortable. If you're having any pain in your breasts or your nipples, which doesn't disappear after the baby's first few sucks, or your nipple comes out of the baby's mouth looking pinched or flattened on one side, then let somebody know, such as your midwife, your health visitor, or your local infant feeding team or support group, where they can have a look at the positioning and the attachment and check that if there's anything they can do to make it more comfortable for you.